Wait 1 more minute.
Is it clock right now?
Audrey said she said it.
Oh.
Welcome, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. I make a motion to approve the work session minutes from October 11th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We also had an intent to cut in the signature folder, timber tax, and a land use change tax bill. Make a motion to approve the manifest dated November 3rd, 2022 in the amount of $337,399.63.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
$207,705 of that is school.
Just so you know, there's only one more payment to the school this year in that same amount, so you're doing really great.
Okay. But then January will be another bill. In the mail folder, we had a notice of violation. A request for a temporary occupancy extension, renewal of the waste management contract, Carroll County Local Welfare Group letter, and price of salt and sand from Burke Quarry for the 2022 prices. Administrative comments.
You received the highway block grant this week in the amount of $24,808. That is not the additional money that state is sending for highway projects. I'm on the municipal managers list, and other people are also asking that.
I'm sorry, how much was it again?
It was $24,808, and it's called the highway block. And I gave you in your packets to prepare for a work session, the old animal control policy that the town had from 2009.
That was the one that was kind of untitled, just a few lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have not been successful reaching Morton Salt. So I did send an email to their customer service, and I think we just cross off the one for Snow Road. And I did check the state's pricing for salt, and it's actually equal or less. So I need to have those signed. And I've had, I don't know, about a half dozen 91A requests this week, and I've not heard back yet on my background checks for my employees, potential employees. And I guess that's it for right now. I've just been straight out doing things, so if you have questions. People probably noticed there were minutes on the agenda that weren't approved, and that's because they're still in draft in that.
Speaking of the highway block grant, did you find anything if we get the bridge money?
One of them we received and we accepted.
Yeah, it was the road.
Is that the road one? So
Yeah.
we're still waiting for the bridge one. I said it the wrong way.
Yeah, it's
Right.
supposed to be, it was supposed to be what, in August, I think it was. Right?
Yeah, like I said, other towns are asking, have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones.
No,
Oh, okay.
no. So hopefully we get it before December. I think it's the 13th. I'm hoping we can have one public hearing for the Carroll County Communication
District Planning Commission.
There you go. The highway block grant and the police detail money, the unanticipated funds. So we need to have a public hearing for those three things.
Can we have the L chip money on there as a receipt, because it's over 10 grand.
Have we received it yet?
Yeah, 49 grand came in a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that we, okay,
I don't
yes,
remember us doing that in a public session.
okay. That's all I have, unless any questions.
The letter we got from, notice from NHMA about purging their files.
Yes,
Do you know if we have anything there? I don't think we do, but could you request them? Just request to have them sent. So
If they've got them.
if there's anything there.
okay.
Okay. Vicky, do you have anything?
Just to let you know that we received the rails and gates for the transfer station to put in the metal in front of the metal containers and the glass containers, so we've got to get them put into the cement or flat or whatever we're gonna attach them to. And that I attended classes with the transfer station guys, the classes that they have to do in order to keep their certificates up to date, so that's about it.
Talking about the railings, not knowing what's happening with the wall and everything there. Brad suggested maybe for the time being, mount on some pressure treated planks.
And not be so permanent.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
instead of, trying to go around and then redoing whatever, so. Yeah, we'll
The
just pick
only-
up some
yeah.
pressure treated 2x8s or 10s, whatever.
The only concern I had was that Primex wanted them stationary so they wouldn't move if someone leaned against them. So I'm not, I don't
I
know,
think we can construct them and
so that they're
that they will be down.
Set,
enough that they
yeah.
won't move.
okay, because it would be permanent and that's, yeah. Okay,
Okay, so we'll just measure up, get some 2x. Something like screws or whatever it needs.
okay,
Yeah,
that's it.
and you get Chuck.
You gonna go over the request for the temporary occupancy permit now, or how you handle
Yeah, we can do that now.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I skipped that over, it, didn't I? We got a request for extension for a building permit for people that have been battling the effects of COVID on everybody. There's bank and foundation contractor and everything else, and they've asked to get another extension. They've had one extension already on their building permit. They asked, and it ran out the 23rd, 22nd, and they've asked for another extension. The foundation is supposed to go in this month. The septic is in, but it can't be given a permit because the foundation's not in, so it has to be piped to the foundation so they can hook up to it. But they kept track. They have a contract with Potty Patrol that comes and pumps their VO. So they've asked for another extension on their permit. Rebecca asked me if the chief audit was all right, and so I'll bring it to the board. And I don't have a problem with it. I mean, they sent a nice letter listing out what they've run up against. They've had to change banks.
Construction permit, construction.
Yeah, and foundation contract has been delayed. Everybody's been delayed. The price of materials have gone up. So I don't know how anybody feels about it. I don't really see a big issue.
The only thing I have here, Rebecca's letter is recommending renewal of it, talking about all kinds of septic stuff. I see nothing where this has been reviewed by the health officer. for their review of it, so they get concurrence on moving forward.
I think you're familiar with that property, right?
What property is it?
Jones Road, the one on Jones Road.
I think so, but you know what, I'll be happy to look at this outside of the public session, you know, no sense dragging any people into it, you know. But I think there probably is something we work with, and you guys,
Reading the letter, I think it's based on everything we've been through this year, I think there's a way to work through it.
Right.
I just want to make sure from a process standpoint, that this has been reviewed not only by zoning, which is where this letter came from, but also by the health officer, before we make the decision.
yeah, our only concern would be making sure that the sewage is being handled in some way, we can work with
Yeah.
what you got already in place.
And it's documented. I would
Yeah,
think
they have
it's
their
on the
receipts
paperwork.
for getting the tank pump and fire control, so.
I know going forward, we're gonna start looking more comprehensively at what each, things are going on, so that we're not going back. And we, you know, try to set the stage. going forward. Sure,
So, yeah, if you'll take a look at that.
absolutely.
And will you let Audrey know so that we can let Rebecca know that?
Yeah,
These people.
after the end of the meeting, we'll see what you got going on.
Okay.
I don't even know what's taking place at this point, we haven't seen it.
There's a letter and,
Just
Cover
all
letter.
kinds of supporting documentation.
Sure, oh, that's great, I'll review it right away.
okay,
One item for me, the work continues at the library for the powder post beetle repairs. We did get another change order in for electrical, for $7,500 for things that weren't part of the original approved proposal. As a result of what we've discovered in taking the ceilings down and having to deal with some of the beams in the wall work. And that is in the amount of $7,500. That money will be paid for out of the historic town hall project, not raised by taxpayer money. So I'll make a motion to approve the L for electric change order for $7,500.
I'll second that. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Other than that, I was just working on the budget stuff, so
So, okay.
prepping for today.
The electronics on Thursday, did we hear back to any kind of time?
She said she would follow up and let me know, but in all honesty, I didn't check that email account today.
Okay,
I have 2 email accounts I check, so
other than that, what were they gonna do? Call here or call
I gave you
me?
your number.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to discuss the closure of Bailey Road on November 10th. That's when they're gonna set the other half of the culvert, and the crane wants to set up in the same spot he did, which is gonna close the portion of the road. The power company has given them a time frame of 8:30 to 1 to shut the power off. So they anticipate the road closure not to last more than 4 hours. JT, your thoughts on that? I don't, do you want to put a truck or something down there?
Yeah, maybe wise to put something in there, even if we don't leave anybody with it, as long as we can put it in there somewhere safe. So that it's on the other side of that blockade.
Jake did say that probably if worse came to worse, if there was a big emergency, they probably could let traffic through, but it'd be just so much easier to.
Yeah, I mean, the only concern would be an ambulance, of course, if we
Yeah.
need to get someone out, but.
Foot traffic would be no problem, but
Okay.
and if you did need an ambulance, they said they probably could do something, at least get it through, but I didn't know if you wanted truck down there just for 4 hours, or
Yeah, if we have engine 3 back at that point, that'd be good to put in there.
where's that staying?
That is currently at Rochester Ford,
Still?
it's taken up residency,
Yeah,
so it came back. And all the same problems still exist,
oh,
so it went right back.
no time frame on.
No time frame. We dropped it off today. They have parted ways with their service manager. So there are some bigger issues going on at that dealership,
Yeah.
but they're trying to make it right this time. So
Okay. Joe, your thoughts on road closure?
I think it's gonna be fine for the 4 hours, as long as from our standpoint. You know, if we gotta get in there, well, if, like you said, if they think they can squeeze a car through or whatever, then I don't foresee a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, they just may have to stow the crane and pull an outrigger.
I mean, the likelihood of an emergency happening, where they're gonna have to do that, is probably pretty remote, but.
Correct.
You know, it's kind of one of those things, we'll get through. We'll get through it.
So, I don't know, if we have to have a vote on that, but,
I think we should.
yeah, we'll vote to close it for the 4 hours for, on the 10th.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Aye.
Okay,
Can you make sure there's something up on the website, Audrey?
Yes, is the
And-
contractor gonna put a sign a few days ahead of time, so the people who use that.
I'll
road-
check with Jake.
Yeah.
Maybe we can put something in the paper too. Conway's son.
Can you also make sure the president of PLA knows that that's happening, so that they'll communicate out internally?
Do we know if it'll be morning, afternoon?
Be morning.
You said 8:31.
That's when the power company gave them that window.
Basically, they've hit the window.
So
they
it'll
should
be
have it
about
done.
8 to noon, 8 to 1 somewhere.
If I may, I'm just curious, sometimes the power company, when they schedule something like this, notifies some customers that this is gonna be shut down.
Yeah.
So maybe if somebody reached out to them, if they notified people that there was gonna be a power outage, it might help you guys get the message.
Well, they'll just, all they care about is power, they don't care about the road.
No, I know, but if the power company notifies everybody on the other side of the bridge, at least they'll get a certain amount of heads up and probably enlighten them that something's going on. It might help you guys
Yeah.
get your message out, and I think there might be an obligation on Eversource's part to do it.
Yeah, they notify when there's a planned outage. But they don't know that road's gonna be closed, is
But
what I'm
if they-
saying.
I think, Michael, what you're saying is if they add to, if that message is something like the road's closed due to the, the powers to be shut off due to the road being closed,
Right,
Right.
all in the same message.
if you can be assured that they're communicating to the public, that'll help you. Concept.
All right, and I did address some of the concerns.
You let them tell us.
Well, I didn't see any hands, but
Well,
I
I
just
saw
had
it.
a quick question, what about the school bus? Does the school bus go down that area? Is it something you should contact the school about?
I don't know if the school, is there any kids? I don't know, we'll check with the school.
Thank you.
But I think by then, at that time, the school bus would be out of there, because it goes by my house about 10 after 8, 20 after 8. And it's coming up, so. But we'll let the school know anyway. Thanks. Laurie Dunn, I met with her there last Friday, and I told her I'd have my idea of what to do. She's concerned about when they pull the filings out, that the riverbed stuff they're putting in the culvert's gonna wash out. So Eric was there today, so I told him, I says, I think if they, before they pull the pilings out, if they pump water in, flood it, and get it back to pretty much even potential, they could just pull it cheating out, and there's gonna be no rush, big rush of water. It's just gonna simply flow. So he was gonna go back and talk with Chris and see what he thought. And also, do you think it's even worth trying to pave it this fall? And just leave it for the winter. I mean, they plow it with a grader, so it's not like they're gonna dig in the plow.
All I'm thinking of is the lead up to the concrete. I really don't wanna have that settling that'll occur because of the road the dirt just going in up against that culvert. And then have them come along that grader and clip the top of the culvert.
Well, they compacted the dirt as they put it in. They compacted every 8 inches, so. But then there's gonna be a foot more gravel over the top of the bridge. And your pavement ends 50 more feet,
Yeah.
so, you know, it's really kind of, You know, I think it's kind of ridiculous.
I forgot there was gonna be a photo.
Yeah.
So,
You
yeah,
know,
good.
make them patch it in for the winter and then pavement ends 50 feet beyond that. So he was gonna check with Chris on that. And I did check on the Beaver Deceiver and Puff Road still there.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, any chance you could, since you're on the Bailey Road, discuss what the change order might have been, just out of curiosity?
The time frame.
Oh.
It was October 31st. We gave him to the end of this month.
With a finish up next spring.
The other stuff can wait for a work session. That was from,
Matt, around the. Rec company.
yeah,
So, with the Ossipee rec contract, Dave Strauss and I are working with Ossipee on that. We have a tentative agreement between the two towns. We asked for legal review of that. And Matt Surge happens to represent both towns. So he's asked us to basically sign a conflict of interest waiver, which I'm good with. Because the way we put the clauses in the contract, either party for any reason can opt out of moving forward with 15 days notice. So we're not bound beyond 15 days, or if a town meeting doesn't fund it on an annual basis. So, but we need to have it reviewed so we can get it back to the towns. Make a motion to approve conflict of interest waiver.
I'll second that. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
You're doing the strategic,
I
High
can do
level.
that right now.
the high level cabinet.
We can do it. We're gonna fly through it. All right, so I gave you the document a couple weeks back that the committee basically came up with for the transfer station strategy. The group met with Waste Management, the manager of the Wakefield Transfer Station, and the coordinator for the new transfer station project up in Tamworth. And we asked people a lot of different issues, and we came down with a number of them, and then we met and talked about it afterwards. And we're looking at the following capabilities. We are going to need to create an engineered plan for site improvements. We are not going to be able to get any kind of grants until we've got a written document that spells out what the plan is looking to do. So we're going to have to come up with a plan before we can move forward. No work's been done on any of that yet because this hasn't gone before the Board of Selectmen. So that's why we're here today. The second item was to look at enlarging the transfer station footprint. And it was basically agreed by everybody, including the committee, not at this time. Adding a weight scale to get away from our $40, $80, basically for type of pickup loads, basically do it by the pound. That was also not at this time, and predominantly due to cost, because it would be over $100,000 to even look at it. The other thing that came up as a suggestion in discussion was purchasing a used loader backhoe for the transfer station. The group looked at the different pros and cons of that for moving brush of the burn pile. There was discussion on damping down demo inside containers. The negative to that is we lease containers, and it is a strong possibility that by tamping it down, you blow the sides out, and then we'd owe a container brand new to Waste Management. Long story short, we said no loader at this time. There's really not a justifiable use. Adding a staggered poured concrete containment wall and frost wall footings for a site layout to improve the demo dumpsters, bottle dumpsters, and the scrap metal dumpsters. The group said yes to that. Again, that would have to be part of any engineered plan. The reconfiguring of the concrete pads. We did pour some pads last year. Unfortunately, we poured them 5 feet too short. So as part of the program, it would look at reconfiguring the concrete pads. Adding dumpster rails. So when the waste management comes in right now and either picks up or downloads a dumpster that's been emptied, these rails would be attached to the concrete, so it would slide right in, and it would prevent the dumpster from being pushed back into the concrete wall. So we already have an instance so far this year, just happened over the summer, where it's hit a couple of times up against the stone walls that are there at this point, and there's chips of concrete out of them, good sized chunks. So the rails would prevent that, so rails would be part of the discussion. The big discussion with quite a bit of feedback was adding a pitched roof cover. We know right now that during the winter months, we pay for a lot of ice and snow to be transported down to waste management in Rochester because we've got open tops. The group and the feedback was, yeah, we need to take a look at some type of a canopy cover over with pretty much open sides. It does have to have a 25-foot high opening to be able to get the 40-yard dumpsters tipped up and down into the system. So it's not just slapping something together with a couple of 2x4s. It'll take a little bit of an engineering plan to make sure that works. It should help us because the next contract is going to go up about 25-30% shipping costs for transportation and weight. This should help us long-term, help reduce that. It won't do a ton of it, but it'll be as much as we can mitigate at this point in time. Doing something, or reconfiguring or looking at the recycling and household trash compactors, not at this time. Expand the burn pile area, second berm, not at this time. Reconfiguring road contractor debris piles out beyond the shed and the white goods area, not at this time. There was quite a bit of discussion about purchasing, leasing, renting a wood chipper to grind the burn pile, not at this time. Removing the existing, I'm gonna call it a tool shed for lack of a better term, near the scrap metal dumpster, near the demo dumpsters. Right now, that building is set to basically fall over any day because you can put your finger right through the walls of the building. So that also will be looked at in redoing a building of some kind. And waste oil recycling, not at this time. So one of the things we will need to take a look at is contact DES, where we're not gonna move forward with this to see if we have to give back any of the $5,000 in grant money we received for waste oil. This document will be available. Audrey's got a copy of it. If anybody wants to get a copy of it, we can give you a copy of it to see what the group looked at, some of the diagrams and whatever. If we move forward, the next steps will be doing some homework to find out about what we could look at for hiring as some kind of an architect or engineer. We have no clue what that entails at this point, what it's gonna look like. The second thing is Mike has done a little bit of homework in the last couple of weeks. We could be far enough into the year that we may not be able to create an application in time to be submitted by December, because the engineering report would have to be done by then. And I'm not sure we can find somebody and get them to do the work and have it all ready to go in time for that, but Mike's verifying that right now. Worst case scenario, we basically are ready to start going through preparation for next year. And looking at it from that standpoint. Question? Did I miss anything, folks? Those that were attending?
That grant money would be available next year.
I think this potentially could be out there. I wasn't an absolute no. The best option we have, because of some time constraints that Chuck outlined, is trying to get in the queue by doing a partial application. And it's gonna hinge on whether we need that engineered kind of report to get in the queue with a partial application. What we could do is put in enough information up front, have them say, you're in the queue for the grant money to be decided, and then come on next year's budget cycle, finish the application. But we need to hold our spot into this year's, grant allotment, and they would carry us forward. What I didn't know is if that was something you want to pursue, and if you do, I'll get right back out to John and start on that to see what we need to give them, what will they take?
So, I didn't cover kind of the funding options for what will be looked at here in this particular item. We have an opportunity for up to a $50,000 grant that basically can be used against this. We can also utilize the fee money that's captured from people paying transfer station stickers, any kind of demo dumpsters, anything that's being paid going into that, goes into a special reserve fund that can only be expended at a town meeting for transfer station purposes. That has a little over, I believe, somewhere around 55 grand in it right now, or somewhere in that neighborhood. So if we were able to get a $50,000 grant and use 50,000 of that money, that means whatever the project would be, and it might not even include all the stuff we've outlined here because it may be too expensive. But it would be a $100,000 project and it would be no increase to taxpayers. So that's a key, no increase to taxpayers.
How much did you say the project?
We're hoping we're hoping with what I outlined with the yes, we'd like to proceed. We're hoping the engineering and architect plan, when that's completed and we get some bids on it, that it can be done for about 100,000 or less. It'll be at least 100. That's why we didn't include some of the other stuff that's in here. We're not sure.
Does that include the engineering?
The engineering's
Design
gonna be
study?
done, yeah, that's gonna be done up front. So that's part of the upfront cost, and we gotta determine what it is and how much, and then determine how we're gonna pay for that. So we don't know yet, we haven't got any information on that, but I wanted to get this to the board, so the board could look at it and say, okay, there's enough information here with a slimmed down package that we can proceed to go after the grant and see if we can lock ourselves in. And then we'll figure out how to get the engineering plan early next year.
Okay, well, my question is, what's going on about the 500-gallon oil drum that's been there for a while, but we've never used? And I believe it was a few months ago, we made a motion to sell it, and you said to wait until
We could-
whatever, so.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
if the strategy committee had come ahead and said, hey, we want to do oil, then it's a decision by the select board to say, do we want to do oil or not?
So-
These folks came through and said no.
So,
My question was, and I did it on page 4 of the handout, we need to verify with DES if there's some kind of a requirement to pay back the 5 grand because we're not using the money for oil, waste management, oil recycling. And I don't know the answer to that question. We need to search that one out. But if it's a case where we don't need to do anything back, you're right, that tank, we'll figure out a way to sell that tank. There's a market for it.
We should try and sell it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if we're making a decision and following the recommendations of the strategy committee, no waste oil, then yes, agreed. But
right,
the key question is sometimes grants based for equipment, which is kind of where this was. You have to have the equipment for a period of time in ownership, or you have to pay some or all of the grant back.
Right.
That's the question we don't know yet. We need to basically contact DES and ask that question. And if they say basically, nope, this is what it is, you're okay to go, then we immediately go for selling it. Get it out on the market.
so why not make a motion to get rid of it? If we have to pay it back, we have to pay it back, but we will have the money if we sell it to pay it back. Right, so either way,
Okay, we can sell it.
so you want to make a motion to?
Could I make a comment?
You certainly can.
When we discussed it, we were talking about immediate plans to do oil were gonna be scrapped. I'm wondering if it might be better to save it and wait until we are ready to do the oil thing, or how far in the future that would be.
if we do this project, it's gonna take a couple years to get it done the way we need it. And then you're looking at if we wanna proceed with a new strategy committee for a next stage, that's another year beyond that. I'm kind of agreeing with Vicky, at this stage of the game, money in the pocket is better than not. And if we can get rid of it and get rid of it at a good price, because it's in great shape, we get rid of it. That would be my vote.
I'd love to get rid of it too.
I'm an aye.
You and I.
I'm an aye.
Okay. So with what I outlined as far as kind of the yes items for the committee to move forward with, do you have any issues with Mike and I moving forward to try and get grant money?
Well, I was gonna say, until we find out how much.
Well, we gotta get a decision to move forward out of the select board. So our job was to come back to you with some recommendations to look at and consider. That's what we just did. And you both have a copy of it.
Yeah.
So we need a decision now that, yep, you can move forward to go to the next stage to figure out what it'll take. Doesn't mean we're approving it, yes, it's gonna
Right.
happen. It
Right.
just means you're approving us looking at the next
And
stage.
we don't even have the time enough.
Who knows?
This year.
So,
So
but,
let's see if we can get in line. If not, then
right,
we'll have to wait till next year.
so I'll make a motion to approve the strategy committee recommendations for the yes items to move forward to determine what it's gonna cost for engineering and what the next steps might be for the committee.
I'll go along with that.
Vicky, I see some questions.
I know.
What's the downside you're trying to figure?
I think it's a lot of money at the time, even no matter when.
We've gotta do something to help reduce the cost of the next contract. And this is one of the ways to do that. And it's not gonna be out of the taxpayer pocket to do it.
And we're not expending any money right now.
Right, yeah,
And it's still gonna go to town meeting. I mean, if
Right.
we're able to pull everything together for March, it's still gonna go to town meeting vote
right.
to release any monies out of the special reserve fund. So people have to be fully aware, here's what's going down, here's what's gonna look like, here's what's happening, and then they vote to yay or nay.
Okay. See you then.
Okay, good, we'll move forward.
All right.
Any last questions, comments from the group?
I was just gonna point out that probably the positive of trying to pursue this is if you take in the money at the transfer station and the special revenue fund just to tackle things like this. That's what the design was for. And if you can get 50%, or actually it's 55% is what's offering the project cost. That hit about $91,000. It come from the USDA. So there's probably a benefit there when you consider, I believe your contract's moving from a 2.5% annual cost of living increase to 5%. So that's double, and then that's just gonna multiply into the future. And then I believe, if I heard that the price was going up from like about $230 a haul to 330 something, which is really about a 50% increase for a haul. And you probably hauls maybe upwards of 50 hauls a year, because you got your demo hauls and you got your compactor hauls. So that's gonna be a lot of money, as well as, you'll be paid by weight. That 5% is gonna be in weight. So long term, trying to offset the cost, it seemed like they're only going to keep going up. I mean, we built in a 5% increase. This is a reasonable way to mitigate those snow loads and the rain that gets in these dumpsters. And there's also probably benefits for the guys who've worked there in dealing with snow and various things. So, you gotta try and make an impact on the taxpayer this day and age to try and do something for the future, mitigate some of the expenses I think we're gonna have.
Okay.
But
Joe?
did I just hear that you said it wouldn't make that much of a impact
Oh, it's
by the
going,
way, I mean, that it's going to, but not that much.
I can't.
I thought that's what I heard you
I
say.
can't tell you
Right,
with a snow load based on the snowstorm
Right,
and the openness of a dumpster being not full and filling up with snow, there is no way to tell you what the estimated
what the
savings
impact's
is
gonna
gonna be.
be, right.
But we know there's gonna be an impact because with no sleet and ice getting in there, no snow getting in there, the weight's gonna go down. And we know the price of transportation goes down.
Water is 64 pounds per cubic foot.
Okay,
We have more homework and then we'll come back.
Yep.
Joe,
Yes, sir.
here's your
So the
wish
guys are working for free next year? That's good.
Yes, it's amazing. I can't believe it. Oh, sorry to get that. But it's not intentional.
So candy is a sweetener. to get you in the mood.
I don't like candy.
I don't know what anybody's done. How about our M&Ms?
No, I'm good. Those on the other hand.
Yeah.
Walk me down through your thoughts on the different increases.
All right,
Fuel.
here we go. So fuel is, I increased a little bit due to the fact of how much over we are already, and it's not even, the year's not even over. We still got 2 months left to go. And yeah, we're over by $2,000 there, so. But I didn't up it by the amount that we're already over, because with the 2 new cruisers, both being hybrids, I'm hoping with the fuel costs and everything, with that 9,000 will cover it.
Chief, good,
Let's see,
3%.
now we're down, yep, those are, so I did the 3% on the salaries for the chief sergeant and patrol officer. Just the standard increases on those, cost of living. Then down to, let's see, we removed the police details out of the budget, which it should have been to begin with, so that wasn't affecting overall, because it's money coming right back in.
Audrey, we requested any kind of language to start looking at that, and we have to do a warrant article to put in that special fund, do we not?
Yeah,
Warrant article.
warrant article, and I plagiarized in other towns previously and gave one to the chief.
Let's see.
Overtime?
Yep, down to overtime. I increased that by $1,000. Calls are up. The call outs this year have been, we've had a ton of call outs, which is really eating up, I think, the bulk of the overtime. It's a 3-hour minimum every time an officer's called out. They could get called out at 2 in the morning, go home at 3, and be called out again at 4 or 5, which has happened.
Do you have any year-over-year stats? Kind of like year-to-date this year versus the 12 months last year for the.
I can get them. I didn't prepare them, but I can get them for you.
I think that would help.
Yeah, sure.
For future questions.
Yeah, sure, not a problem. But that was the reason for that, to absorb the overtime on the call outs.
Software down.
Let's see, yep, software is down. The reason it was increased as much as it was because I needed to buy a program this year, so we could allow 2 users onto our system, because we can only work 1 officer at a time. That allowed us to buy 2, so we decreased it for next year, because we won't have that expense. And then
Uniforms.
down to uniforms, yep, decreased uniforms. I don't plan on putting on anybody new next year that's gonna need them, so it's really to maintain what we have. Vehicle maintenance, I've decreased only because we're gonna have 2 brand new cruisers, basically. So I'm not anticipating any major issues that would require more money in the vehicle maintenance line.
Speaking of, where are we with that?
I think the end of this week, Vicky, it should
You
be
said
done.
2 weeks, what, a month?
I'm telling you what
ago?
they're telling me. Yeah, I know. It should be the end of this week. We were down last week to give them what they needed out of the oldest cruiser, some of the equipment, which now has rendered that cruiser completely inoperable. It can't be used. And when we went down last week, they told us the end of this week it should be done. So
good.
that's where we're at with that.
All in, you're $100 under budget
$100 less.
Is there a reason you didn't, kept the tires out of vehicle maintenance?
Oh, so yeah, the reason I wanted to separate that out is just because that's gonna be a yearly expense for us. We're gonna need them every single year. So I just wanna make sure we have the money there to plan on it, because with the 3 cruisers, every year I can guarantee at least one of them's gonna need tires. So, and if for some reason we eat up the vehicle maintenance line and there's no money in it and we need tires, it just assures me that I have money for tires if we need them.
Wouldn't be any increase in patrol time or hours, it's like.
No.
It's basically.
That is what it is, correct. Yep, that is what it is. Yep.
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't see any big problem with it. I like that it's less money.
It's going up in salary and down and other.
You know, the total budgets.
Pull us
Yeah.
down.
So, you get any issues with it? Or?
You just figure
Any
one more
questions?
thing.
Yeah.
So just the normal salary increase in order to keep at the level or go by $5,200.
Mhm.
So it's coming in $100 under. And making it all work.
Okay. Am I,
You good with it?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve 4210 police budget for $234,267.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
For the dog officer.
Dog officer.
All right, so with the dog officer, let's see, equipment and supplies, I dropped that $250 because we pretty much got what he needs. I don't anticipate anything major next year that he's going to need. Humane Society fees, we've kept the same. And for his pay, I'm requesting to up his stipend $50 a week. Just due to the fuel prices, he's driving his own vehicle. We do reimburse mileage, but fuel prices are still up and just the general expenses. So that was my request for that. He's averaging right now 2 to 3 calls a week. His average.
2 to 3 calls a week?
That's average. So some weeks it's less, some weeks it's more.
Average calls would be those 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, depending on the call. Yeah.
I mean, there was kind of a big increase in the officer, and then the mileage was also so.
Well, the mileage, so we separated that out because we were paying him his mileage out of his salary. Because we budgeted for the whole year for that, for his salary, and he's not doing the whole year. So the mileage was being paid out of that, but this year we want to separate that out.
What's he getting now?
For mileage,
No, for like, so he can.
he gets $100 a week right now.
Okay.
No, it's a stipend, it's $100 a week. He's on call 24/7. Sometimes he leaves his work at $30 an hour to come handle Effingham dog calls. I've seen him do that a couple times. So he's dedicated, he's loyal, that's for sure, and he does a fantastic job.
So whether he's doing it or we're paying an officer at a much higher rate to do it.
True, right, correct. It's gotta get handled.
This is like the price tag more in line with what other towns around us are paying.
Yeah, it's still low. It's still low compared to other towns, which I can put that together too if you like.
Hey Chuck, if I may, oh, sorry, man. I've worked with the animal control officer a number of times, like when we had to wrangle the goats and things like that, and we did have conversations about having the dogs to come and do what he does, but from what I can tell, he's professional, he's there most often when we need him and stuff, I just want to put in the plug for him, he's doing a great job in my neighborhood.
Any questions, Dick? Any ideas, thoughts? Maria's?
I'm good with it because I know it can fail.
Yeah, $150 a week is much.
And if we had to use our own cruisers and put dogs in there and they started ripping stuff apart or started barfing all over the place, or we had cleanup costs and everything else, it's like, that's not on us.
Decrease the overtime. Good question.
Dave?
Money on the 1,000 for the Humane Society fees. Audrey and I had worked with the lady at the Humane Society. Previous select board had agreed to just hand 1,000 at the beginning of the year to the Humane Society to cover it, and if we didn't go up to that amount, they could keep it. Now that's changed a little bit. They want us to charge by each one, keep 1,000, and then at the end, you can give us, if you want, them being society, you can give them the remainder. That's the agreement the previous select boards had, budget committee approved that last 4 years. So it was just something that Audrey and I were gonna bring up to see if we wanted to continue that. If we don't overspend that $1,000, that we would donate the remainder of what's left of the 1,000 to the Humane Society. If you wanted to continue doing that, so I wanted to bring it up to you while you were doing this.
I thought we just made $1,000 donation to them.
No, I talked to the director and she said, they have a contract and it's the first time I've seen the contract. She emailed it to Dave and myself. And when I called her, I said, well, if we give you $1,000, the contract doesn't make sense. And she said, in a case where you may have someone who has a barn full of abused animals, where it ends up being a legal case and they have to house and take care of these animals, it doesn't, $1,000 doesn't nearly cover it. So she was not in favor of doing that, and she would rather bill us quarterly. I think we just paid one in this week's manifest. And then, you know, Dave said, well, maybe we can, at the end of the year, see where we're at with them and make a small donation, bring it up to 1,000.
Well, we did previously, in the beginning, just hand them 1,000.
Yeah,
Beginning
that's
of
what
the
I
year.
thought.
And then she did a little Audrey and wanted to change that.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So set up. Are we good? You made everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve 4414 dog officer in the amount of $10,050.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. There you go, you're off the hook.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You gotta do it again.
Yeah, I know, I got it. All in a day's work. Man.
Who seconded that motion?
I didn't
Huh?
touch it because I didn't
Chuck
know.
did.
It's hanging. It's right on the tree. Yeah, yeah.
If it's one and the same, it's what this one's all about. Oh, it is. Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah.
Okay, JT.
All right, so we'll start out with disease prevention.
Yeah.
Last year's budget was $100 for that. I eliminated that. It was an item that was not used. Fire prevention, last year, $250, no change to that. Fuel, substantial increase to that. I was able to pull the statistics. Diesel price went up 55% just since January of this year. As a result of that, as a result of our increased call volume and having the duty crews in the station and responding with the vehicles, we've seen a pretty large increase in our fuel usage. So I had to increase that quite a bit. There's no good way to calculate how much fuel we're going to use in a year.
Fuel went up. You said 55%. So that should bring the total cost to roughly $5,000. You get 6,500.
Okay, you look at the additional volume that's happening. Look at the call volume.
Yeah, but is it 1,500 though? You know?
And in addition to that, we do pay for the propane out of this line item as well to heat the
Yeah,
station.
well, that shouldn't,
So
shouldn't come out of there. It comes out of the municipal budget.
okay,
The heat
we might have
comes
to
out
check
of-
because I think I paid a couple propane bills.
Okay, well, check.
We'll check that.
No, it comes out of the municipal building fund.
If that's correct, then we can do a decrease on that line item then. Yeah, I think 1,000 is fair. All right, expenses and supplies, I kept that the same. That's for our office supplies, technology, things like that. We don't anticipate any purchases there. Medical supplies, I increased by $500, and that's just as a result of the increased amount of calls, the increased amount of medical calls we're doing, and then everything's gotten more expensive as well. So
That went up 500, right?
that went up 500. Member pay, I went up $1,000. That is to allot for the increase in call volume as well as the 3% wage increase. Mileage, I eliminated. There's no need for it at this point. We're using department vehicles for most of our department business, so there's no need to have mileage. Mutual aid dues.
Wow.
Significant increase on this line item. We're going to be paying our Ospey Valley mutual aid dues, which is our normal. There is no increase this year to that line item or to that particular item.
So is that $7,000?
I believe that's what that base is. Yeah, actually I think it's 6,000, and then the I am responding application was coming out of that as well. So we'll keep the I am responding. There's no cost change to I am responding this year. That is the program that alerts us when we have a call. First due is the new edition. It's a pretty expensive edition with all the setup fees and things like that for the first year. That price increases by several thousand on year two.
Increases by several?
It decreases by several thousand on year two. Yep. So that software is all inclusive. It's an all inclusive records management. Several departments in the area were using an antiquated software. Everybody's moving up towards a new software. And out of all the different softwares we had trialed, this was the most cost effective. This incorporates scheduling, inspections, permits, training, certifications, equipment maintenance, vehicle maintenance, hydrants, incident reporting, pre-planning and response, and mushes it all into one software. So if we do an inspection somewhere and then we go there for a call, all that information that we obtained during the inspection shows up and alerts us on the way there. If it's a residence, that might be information that there's a disabled person there and they're going to need help getting out. It might be information as to how we get into the building. It might be contact information, things that are mission critical. Some of the different maintenance items that it's able to track, that'll keep for example, our air packs are a high profile item. If those air packs were to fail, it could hurt or kill somebody. We need to have solid records as to when those were checked, how they were checked, and if there's any defects. As of right now, that's a check mark on a piece of paper. That's not really solid record keeping. This will actually allow us to check them on a weekly basis to the NFPA standards. Same with the vehicles. We'll go through weekly and check all our vehicles through this software.
So will this track like, if there's equipment that basically has a state mandated or federal mandated useful life,
It will.
that this would track that? So
It will
that
track that.
wouldn't be out of compliance.
So this keeps us, it's a compliance software above all else. It keeps our personnel certifications in compliance with the state and federal mandates. It keeps our vehicles and our equipment in check compliance. It allows us to do our federal incident reporting, which is a mandate. And all of these things are areas that we were doing before, but we weren't doing them the best. There were definitely gaps in incident reporting and vehicle maintenance and equipment maintenance and things like that. So this is a tool that will help us do better, serve better, and be compliant.
Be made us more efficient.
That is correct. And maybe even move us into the 21st century. Everybody good with that?
Maybe we should break software into a separate line. and add one.
We could do that as well.
Yeah,
I would tell you the budget committee is gonna definitely want
Okay.
I would, that breakdown. would be great.
13,600.
And I'm gonna request you come up with, I know there's usually initiation setup costs.
Yep.
Versus ongoing costs.
Absolutely.
Please get that information to Audrey. So we can, and today, so we can understand what the one time is versus the ongoing.
Absolutely. New equipment, no changes to that line item. The 5,000 that we had budgeted for last year will be sufficient to provide us a couple sets of turnout gear and to replace some of our less expensive aging items. I was able to get the Gopher grant this past year as well as a forestry grant.
How much?
So I don't have the totals for both of those grants on hand.
Was it one like 47?
The Gopher grant was, yeah,
47,000,
Almost 50.
51.
almost 50. So with that, we were able to buy a lot of the equipment that we needed. So I don't expect to need to buy any major equipment this coming year. Background checks, I increased by $200, and that is simply just so we can get more than one applicant through. The previous budget was $100 for the year, and that is hiring one person. So I increased by 200 to allow us to hire a couple of people. Should be fine.
How much does it cost to do a background?
It's about 75 per person between the driving history and the criminal background. The radio line item I reduced by 1,000. Part of the Gopher grant was some radio equipment. Our equipment is generally in pretty good condition. That is just there as a reserve for maintenance should something break or should something need to be repaired, but I don't anticipate needing to buy anything. The secretary line item, I'm utilizing that to pay for our online faxing service, which is how we get our tear sheets after the call from Carroll County that has all of our run times and things like that on it. It also will include the cost for 10 email accounts for our department members.
I would put that into the software too.
If we're going to create a software, I think that's a more appropriate place for it.
So from a secretarial standpoint, do you want to leave $1 in there to keep that line item, or do you want to just get rid of it?
I'm okay with getting rid of the line item. The fire chief line item. So this is the line item that we have been using to pay my weekly salary. So presently I work 2 duty shifts a week, 10-hour duty shifts along with the rest of the crew. And I'm allotted 4 hours of administration time as well. It's important to remember that last year at town meeting, we adjusted this for a 39-week year versus a full 52-week year. So there is a significant increase there. Most of that's because it's a full year. In addition, I am requesting a 3rd shift, which would bring me to 30 hours a week as part of the duty crew. It's not increasing our coverage hours. It's just assigning me to an additional day. So it would be me instead of another person.
So from a number standpoint, with what we approved at town meeting, at 39 weeks, and if you were working 30 hours a week, actually, this has got 34 hours. 34 hours a week would be $32,860. So what you're actually saying is you're moving it from 34 down to 30, and you're reducing the total salary line by $100.
That is correct.
The 52-week run rate was $32,860. And if you remember at town meeting, there was a big deal about making sure it wasn't annualized. Everybody wanted to move it back to 39 weeks. There's always a flip side to the 39 weeks. You get to catch up the following year.
I'll point out to the select board, this was not approved at the town meeting. So I can highly recommend to the budget committee to not approve this line. So I expect it to be a warrant article. So I do not expect it to be in the budget.
We approved,
We did not approve the fire chief, the article was disapproved.
the fire chief's salary
Was disapproved.
was disapproved, correct, which put him back into per diem status to work as many hours as he wanted to.
Correct, but he has a salary here of 18,000 for 2022, that's incorrect. That's zero. No salary was approved for his as a.
So in
fire chief.
reality, sorry, to interrupt you.
It was in the daytime coverage. Daytime coverage should go back to 88,447. And it should be zero under the fire chief, because that warrant article was disapproved. If you decide to put that in that line item as a fire chief for a salary, I'm gonna recommend to the budget committee not approve it and ask you to put in a warrant article, just so you understand where I'm coming from.
So zero out the chief money, put the chief money that we voted at the town meeting back into the per diem line. The member
For
line,
22. For 22,
okay.
because 22 is
Okay,
not correctly
but-
depicted.
Bottom line, the money's still the same money. It's maybe a different line item, but
We
it's the
didn't
same
budget-
money.
We didn't budget 18,720 approved at the town meeting for fire chief salary.
So instead of calling
It
this,
was increased to the daytime coverage of warrant article.
instead of calling this fire chief, should we just be moving this money back into the daytime coverage, because effectively that's what it is? It's just me that's performing the hours.
That's the way you wanna see it?
The way I would like to see it is 32 is taken out in warrant article written right there.
No,
That's what we did last
because
time.
that's a pay cut. That means we're coming in with a budget of 32,000 less than we approved last
I'm
year.
not saying you're gonna go 32, Chuck. I'm just saying it's gonna be a warrant article for his salary. It's whatever you guys agree for a warrant article.
We agreed to pay him $20 an hour as a fire chief, written contract. Got
Yes,
it.
you did. For a max of
There's a-
$25,000,
And that was disapproved at town meeting.
correct?
We had a contract for $20 an hour, which then put him into per diem member pay territory.
The town
And I
authorized,
gave you the same spreadsheet that I produced for the town meeting, which showed 20 hours a week at member pay, plus the 4 hours additional, and then the 20 hours a week at the additional rate of pay between 1577 and 20. And then I also basically put in there that if he decided he wanted to work an additional 10-hour shift, which because we did not go with a fire chief's salary, he's allowed to pick up as many shifts as he wants.
all I'm trying to point out is what I'm gonna recommend to the budget committee. Select board has their own, what they wanna do with their budget. I don't agree with your philosophy. I know what the town voted. I have the warrant articles, I have the minutes. So it's your budget, you can vote what you want. I'm just telling you what I have a hard spot that I'm gonna be bringing up to the budget committee. How you handle that is up to you at this meeting. I just want you to know what I'm bringing up to the budget committee.
All right, so I'm in agreement that we get rid of the fire chief line.
and put that.
And add the money into the daytime coverage line. And I agree with Dave that because the warrant article failed, we don't have a fire chief line item. It became a daily rate coverage line item, which needs to be in that daytime coverage line.
And we're gonna need to go back and move that money from this past year to correct.
How do you wanna do
Wait for you here on that.
2022, do you wanna change that?
2022 needs to change the budget sheet to say 0 and the bottom line should be 88,447. Of daytime coverage.
Say that again, 88 what?
88,447 for daytime coverage for the 2022.
So that's the 18.7 plus the 69.7.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. That's what the town approved.
Right, continue.
Okay, so we go 0 on fire chief and it makes the daytime coverage 105, 560. Can't read my own writing. Okay, telephone.
All right, so telephone, there is an increase on this line item as well. When I started, we had effectively dial-up internet speed, so we did upgrade to the lowest business internet that they offer, just to get us something high speed, so we could actually complete our medical reports and things like that. That was obviously more expensive than what we were paying because we are getting a higher speed. Additionally, we changed over to the VoIP phone system that's part of the town hall system, so we're all under the same phone system. So there was an increase there for those two things. Additionally, a cell phone for the fire chief that would be paid for by the town, issued to the fire chief. The phone's town property, just like we do with the police. I'm also requesting a Apple iPad that's connected to cellular, and that would be used by our EMS providers in conjunction with the cardiac monitor that we purchased. That allows us to actually transmit cardiac rhythm strips to the hospitals while we're waiting for the ambulance to get there. And that makes determining which hospital you're going to, which medications they're going to give, things like that, a lot easier when the ambulance does get there. Additionally, they can use that to complete their state required medical reports for each call we go on. They can, if we get a patient refusal where a patient decides they're not going to go, all our signatures can be done right on that iPad paperless.
How's that done today?
It's done on paper. And our cardiac monitor has no connectivity outside of the switch.
So we when we set up, we've got 0 connectivity until actually ambulance gets there.
Correct. And they do it with their own. Even once they're there, we can't do it with our monitor. So that allows us to actually connect that piece of technology to the outside world and use it to its fullest.
But the monitor will hook up to the iPad.
The monitor connects to the iPad, which gives it the cellular connection to the outside world. Yeah. Training budget, no change to that. We've done well with what we have, and I don't anticipate much changing on that front at this point. Truck and equipment maintenance, I went up $1,000. That's just a result of everything becoming more expensive. Out of that line item, we pay for our hose testing, our air pack testing, our fire pump testing, as well as all the general vehicle maintenance. So all of those things have gone up. So we're just accounting for that.
Engine 3 is warranted.
Some of it has been covered under warranty, some of it has not.
It's emissions, correct?
It's all emissions related, and from what I've been talking to the other fire chiefs in the area, and that model year, that style truck, they're all having these same problems with it. It's not just us. It's a very common problem with the emissions on these trucks.
The truck's been a problem since we bought it.
Yeah. A lot of people have switched to gas for that reason. Get away from emissions. And engine 2, as long as we can keep that thing, even though it might be over the 20 years, it's pre-emissions and it runs great. I'm happy to keep that as long as we can for that reason. Daytime coverage line item, obviously, we just kind of blew that up, so what I have here is not fully accurate. The plan was for 70 hours of daytime coverage, which is no change from the previous. That was accounting for me taking the other 30, total of 100 hours a week. And I did figure that on a $20 an hour pay rate for 52 weeks. That's on the high end of our pay scale, but that allows us the room throughout the year to provide rate increases to attract new staff and maintain the ones we have.
And that's according to that schedule, right?
And that's according to the schedule.
And we have how many on staff?
We have 12 right now.
We have 12.
12 members.
We have 12 members total, yes. Not all of them work day shifts and not all of them are active at the moment. We're getting ready to.
How many are active?
I'd say we probably have 7 or 8 that are active. We're getting ready to drop a couple off the roster shortly.
How many hours of coverage do we have this currently?
100 hours.
That's what we're running right now.
Correct. 5 10-hour shifts with 2 people.
And I've gone by days where there's 3 vehicles there. Is there 3 people on?
There have not been 3 people on. There have been days that I come in and I work off shift, if you will. So you'll see me there and people stop by.
But looking at the timesheets, they report hours on the same days.
There should not be 3 people on unless we've had an event where we've called in extra people, but off the top of my head, I can't think of that happening in the last few months.
Okay. Because it's only supposed to be 2.
Correct. Correct. There have also been days where someone's covered, 8 to noon, and then someone's come in at noon, so there's an overlap there as well, where they're doing shift change, but no, there should not be 3 people on shift at a time.
Okay.
So 100 hours, currently 100 hours proposed, and no change in the number of total hours.
No change in hours, just a bump in pay.
I want to go back to the software. I know in many software packages, you buy the individual modules.
Correct.
So my guess is each one of these items has got an individual price tag to it.
It does.
Plus whatever the installation piece is.
Correct. And I went conservative on the modules. There's 100 more that I could have opted for. I went with what we're going to use on our day-to-day.
All right. So if I basically say you had to reduce that list by half,
It may not be feasible to keep the software that way.
you can still get that breakdown log there.
Yes, absolutely.
Into the
It's kind of at the end, but I did a quick little bar graph just as an info for you. Shows calls in 2015, 2020, 2021, and then 2022 to date. So the 2022 number is as of yesterday, the end of October.
It's pretty dark.
So last year we had 420 calls. As of right this minute, we're at 464 calls. So
Oh,
So the call volumes are up.
call volumes are up.
When I talked to John Hatch at the 6-Town ambulance meeting a week ago, he informed me that the activity in Effingham is up substantially, and it's not related to high watch. He said high watch was.
That's correct. There are a significant amount of calls every month to high watch, but they're not the majority. They're not the majority of the calls.
but are most of them mutual aid?
I'm sorry.
Mutual aid?
No,
No?
very minimal mutually. Very minimal.
A lot of repeat calls.
A lot of repeat calls. We have some pretty sick people that we're visiting quite often.
In the last measurement period with Action, possibly in Effingham, were the only 2 that have gone up year over year. This will be our 3rd year where our volumes have increased, which has increased our price tag with Action Ambulance. And 4 of the towns have gone down based on their activity.
Can I ask what the daytime coverage request is somehow in the chief line being zeroed out and everything? I'm not sure if I'm following what the dollar.
It's 105, 560.
So there's actually a schedule, Mike, that I believe, is that a public schedule?
It has names attached to it, so I think that's,
I don't want names attached, but I want positions.
I can make a version without names.
Okay, so we, based on training, certification, driver, non-driver, there's a point system that Randy used to use that needs to be modified. So that each firefighter is making a different rate of pay based on how many certifications do you have, if you've got a CDL license to be able to drive the fire truck, and if you happen to be an officer in the rank. We can publish that schedule, we just won't put names to it, so people can see what it is. But that, based on the run rate he's got, with the 70 hours a week that are covered by the regular shift, his rate's 30 hours at 21 an hour. So that's what got added to that 72. The 72 all was basically a small increase above the 69. I'm not even sure it was a 3%. So maybe it was.
So I guess what I was kind of curious about here is the whole warrant article thing we went through last year, what Dave is mentioning about a warrant article. And since this would be the first full year of pay, is there any reason why the board couldn't just put into member pay the total amount for all the members and the chief at this point under that?
That's what we just did.
That's what we just did.
So that's incorporating everything.
Correct, that's 100 hours of coverage, period.
That didn't include
just
the member
happens on
pay.
their work
That
period.
didn't include the member pay that you just said.
Member pay is the off-duty response, so that is not daytime coverage, that's when
Okay.
we're not at daytime coverage, people are coming out at night. We pay them out of the member pay line item.
Gotcha, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Daytime coverage is its own line item, and that's just the day coverage. That daytime line item now is 100 hours of coverage a week, 5 10-hour shifts with 2
Okay.
people. I will occupy currently 20, looking for 30 next year of those hours.
Okay, so I misspoke when I did said member pay.
I used the term, you didn't misspeak.
Oh, did I?
You
Run
listened
it,
to what
run
I
it,
said.
So whoever's guilty for that. The point being was in the normal daytime coverage, which was compensating for the salary or whatever we're calling it, we're paying our chief here out of. Isn't it possible just to incorporate what we're looking to pay this gentleman into the daytime coverage, have that as a global number for one full year, and then maybe next year revisit the whole, separate the chief out once we've just established this, because it did seem a little confusing for the world last year, or this past week.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've accomplished exactly what you're.
Okay, so I was not following, and that's
Yep.
where I, all right, my
Is that
apologies.
explained right, David?
I agree, it's, I got 2 issues on it I wanna bring up, and kind
Okay,
of add in. Now.
we're at the bottom, so
The daytime coverage.
Yep.
We're gonna have stats, for the budget committee, last year and this year, of how the fire department exceeded the pay each year of what was approved, but it was approved by the select board to do it, but it exceeded what the budget committee approved. And how last year, we were about 20% usage of the funds, because we couldn't get full amount of fire department 2 day a week. Right now, we're 40% below expenditures. And that number is misleading, because that number was set up with this year's $15.77. And when after town meeting, you guys allowed JT to go to $17 to $20 an hour, that expended more in that line. So what it's showing to me is we're not getting 2 people. The budget committee asked in June for the breakdown, I still haven't got it to date. So right now, I have a hard spot, and I'll be relaying that to the budget committee, of funding a line item that typically is not filled with the manning that was the town had wanted. And never mind that, it keeps raising the amounts, and I heard the chief just say that he's gonna go for raising the hourly rate so he can get people in again. Here we go again, the unused funds, that'll be 3 years in a row. You're exceeding what the budget committee authorized. You have the right to do that, I understand it, but you're exceeding what we're presenting to the town meeting. This is getting to be a double ambulance charge. Take a look at this report I just received. Almost 80% of that is medical. We have an ambulance company, and I'm gonna again hit the board. We're getting to the point of where you need to negotiate, or at least get me some numbers to tell me why we can't pay to have more ambulance coverage. Because our fire department right now, 52% last year, up to almost 20% this year. This is getting out of hand. And the town right now is high rates of overdue taxes. And this line item right now, to me, is being abused extensively. So I want you to know that's a concern that is gonna be related to the budget committee. And the other issue is, if you do agree to the 32,760 in the daytime coverage, 5,700 of that was a stipend that has always been given to the chief. That came out of member pay. Is that gonna be reduced?
I believe after the town meeting that was part of the.
No, it's in there. He's getting a stipend.
When we altered our pay schedule and got away from doing stipends, my assumption was that went away with stipends. We pay hourly when people come out on calls now instead of doing the point system. They make their hourly rate per hour when they come out on a call when they're not on shift.
I thought the 5,700 went away.
If you look at your spreadsheet, it still has a 5,700 stipend in it. And it's exactly what it has been in every year that the fire chief has been there. I believe Randy was 59 and went down to 57.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have not been taking that and I don't expect to receive that
Well, you don't,
based on the pay.
I mean, it's automatic with the paycheck. That's something Audrey handles. How she wants to do that, that's up to her.
We don't pay a stipend anymore. JP's correct when he presented the point system and went to that same hourly rate for on-call member pay or pay it off. It's all the same rate now hourly.
Well, we allow him another additional 4 hours a week above and beyond the 2 shifts.
But
And I thought that was a stipend thing.
no, he puts it on his time sheet as
Because
hourly.
that's the way it was presented to us, is that there was still a stipend. So
Well,
I
they
don't
made
know.
a change during the year. Everything's hourly.
I mean, I've got my notes, it was presented a 5,700 stipend to us when we did it last year. So I assumed the extra money he was getting was part of that stipend. Is it? That's a question I need to know. I mean, if it is, it should be reduced from the member pay. That's an issue I'll have, so. I
So
will
the
want more
other-
documentation, otherwise I'll recommend to the committee to cut it by 5,700.
The other part of that too is, so I'm paid hourly, I'm not paid salary or given any stipends at this point with the pay scale we set up. So if I go out on a call when I'm not covering the daytime hours, I'm paid hourly just like any other employee. So there'd be no reason for any kind of a stipend, because I just make the hourly rate when I'm out on calls.
No, that's what was presented to the committee last year, JT, that a $5,700 stipend, 200 less than Randy had been receiving.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Randy received that stipend in lieu of the hourly pay for going out on calls. Does that make sense?
No.
Because we weren't paying
Because it's
hourly
still
when people
whether
went on
he got
calls.
it or you get it, doesn't matter.
I think basically there was a change in methodology that the board did and, as long as they don't go over budget, that's how they're managing their budget this year, but there's no stipends anymore. And after we've done the hourly based on that schedule per person. So the stipends and everything went away, so it's a whole new mindset.
When we changed that point system, we get rid of that stipend, but
We did get rid of the
they-
stipend, yeah,
it was part of it.
right,
Last
exactly. So you have to look at it with different eyes, in my opinion.
Because you remember Randy presented last year's budget.
was Randy being paid points to go on calls in addition to that stipend, or was
I
that
never
his?
saw that point sheet until you arrived, that was never given to the.
That, because I get where you're coming from, whether that's in excess of being paid for going on calls, but I tend to think that's part of going on calls. So it would still be utilized, just in a different manner. Does that make sense?
Well, that's not the way that we understood it, at least I understood it, and then Leo is more senior than me, so I'm sure he'll remember it also.
I didn't
Yeah,
know there was a
Randy
point
did.
system until after Randy left and JT brought it in.
Yeah, it's my understanding from even when Brian was here, the person that I took over from. You know, when we got the monthly sheet from Randy that said how much to pay each person. I asked the question, how do we know what each person's making, and how do we back into this? And so there really, until we had seen that point system, there was no idea.
I'm just going off of the spreadsheet that I was provided from last year that shows that stipend in it. So I would want more documentation to say that that's not happening before we cut it, we don't cut it. Because that right now, to me, everything I have says that we're gonna cut that line out by 5,700. Make a motion to do that, and then unless I can get some information that they're definitely gone in there. So just so you know where the concern is for me presenting to the budget committee.
So Dave, looking at this year's budget to actual, there's no line item for stipend, is there?
There never has been, Chuck, it's
The
always been
same
a
as
member pay,
Member pay.
Okay,
always been a member pay.
okay.
We only started pulling out stipends within the last 2 years to try and make it more visible to the public. I mean, we're trying to improve it as we go, but that was one we never got to. And if it is still there, there will be another line item called stipend.
I can say from the budget I've created, there is no stipend anywhere in my budget, but I can't speak to past practice.
Well, I know that member pay always had it in it. Now the member pay is going up, so Randy's not taking a $5,900 stipend anymore.
Well, it went, in 2021, it was 21, and 22, it went down to 18. So,
And it's going up
so it's going up to
Wow.
19, but,
to 19.
So if the stipend is $5,700 for 4 hours a week, you're taking $21 hourly rate. That's 43.68 or something, so it's less than the 57. So there's some numbers in there. I don't know how it's being pulled apart from member pay.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
And with my hourly proposal, the calculations I did not include 4 hours of administrative time, if you will. The full 30 hours is covering the daytime shift.
Daytime coverage, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the question to you is a stipend in there? Or are you gonna also give a stipend on top of the 32? I guess that's what I'm not sure.
No.
That's what I'd like to know.
No,
no
there's no
stipend.
stipend.
Okay, so you're not planning on putting a stipend?
No.
And then the other question is it definitely not in the member pay? Audrey, you don't believe it is?
I don't believe it is.
So that's where JT would make any additional hours from would be member pay because he's already locked into what the daytime hours is.
Well, that's only when he goes on a call.
The reason it gives me caution is it's $18,000 that we budgeted last year, which was Randy's pay, which had the stipend in it. And now going up to 19.
And we've
And so
already
we're
used
saying we're
14
not
on.
giving a stipend anymore. Why is that line item going down?
Going
How much we
down.
paid Randy?
Because our call volume is going up.
Not that much.
We've already spent 14,100 this year in member pay, with no stipends paid. And we've still got another 2 months to go before year end. And if you take that and then put a 3% salary increase on it, you're up in the 17, 18 range.
We did have, 3 months of the old method,
Correct.
because Randy, he would give me the monthly sheet, pay this person, you know, this much. So we did have 3 months of,
And we did, that's right.
yeah. So it convolutes it a little less, I mean, a little more.
A little more.
I have some thoughts on how maybe we can break it out and present it differently. You know, I need to get in my cell brain and do that, but I don't know if you wanna.
Well, if we don't do a stipend, I don't think we have to, as long as we just make sure the stipend has been removed that we were paying Randy, because it's a significant difference, and I can't always believe that all the charges in the budget to actual are actual. Because we've been having a lot of issues, and we're still trying to work through them, and we all understand those issues.
So doing quick math. Subtract out, or excuse me, look at the current year to date, $14,095. Basically, turn that around into a 12-month number and add 3% to it, and you're like 17.4. You're not far off the 18 number from this year. And that's if our volumes don't fall. And by virtue of the fact of what we're looking at here, if I had 18 and it was minus 5,700, our call volumes have already put us over the budget that would have been there if we had kept the site.
So if Randy was still sitting there, we'd be 5,900 in the hole,
We'd be over.
another 5,900. Is that what you're saying?
Because the stipend would still be coming out at the end of the
Yeah, the
year.
stipend would still be coming out.
Under the old.
So, yeah, no, it literally, if we took 5,700 out of the 18, that's 12.3. We've already spent 14.1 and we still got 2 months to go. So from a member pay standpoint, the call volumes are justifying increases because of the call out stuff.
Yeah, so, again, if Randy was still there, we took it
We'd be over.
5,900, we'd be
We'd be over,
5,900 over that. That's what you're saying.
we'd be over almost $1,800 right now, with 2 more months to go.
Okay, well, as we're all on the same path, I mean, this is why we have this.
I think as long as you're presenting the member pay as the hours that, you know, the members responded to that, I mean, your daytime hours are reflective of what we pay in daytime hours. It's pretty consistent. You'll have a tracking of members for that member pay to be called out. And that's gonna be what it is, and that'll give you your basis for saying this is what we spend in a year, you know, on a rough average. And I think every average taxpayer is gonna understand what you're asking for. It won't be convoluted with stipends and other things. It'll be straightforward.
From either board, is there interest in changing the name of that line from member pay to off-duty response or something different? For clarity purposes.
But the chair saying no. I'm good.
I'm good with whatever, it isn't an issue on that, JT. It's just that we expect volume up because we know you're responding to last year and the year before medical, when almost all your calls were not from that because daytime calls were handled by the ambulance. Now, as soon as we put you in, we expected that you would have more run rates because you're either getting there and calling the ambulance off, or you're both getting there, so you're gonna have a pay. So we expected that your volumes would increase because 80% of your calls during that day is medical. I mean, so it's a no-brainer. I mean, we knew the medical calls were gonna go up. We can drive up your run rates. That's why we asked to please give us the sheet that we sent you in June to break that off, so we had that numbers to say, this is what our medical's actually causing, and this is what normal fire department business is doing without the daytime medical. And that's important for us to have as data when we get into this number.
When you haven't got that.
No.
Can you get that?
Are you referring to this? The stats
I'm
monthly?
referring to the letter that we sent you, I keep texting you for.
Yeah, and this should cover everything you asked for.
No, this doesn't meet what, even close to what I sent you 2 or 3 weeks ago. In the letter that, I have the letter again if you wanna go back through that, but, I mean, I've done it multiple times.
We'll connect after and figure out what's not on here that you need.
Multiple times. I'll just check my last email and text I sent you, and it shows what's missing. I mean, if you don't wanna give it, I understand that, that's okay.
No, it's a matter of just every stat that I do is hand counted and it's all hand data. So it's just time consuming. That's the hardest part.
I understand that, but we're responsible, you know, have the answers to the committee and to the public, because we represent them for the budget. So waiting 4 months to try and get a response is a little frustrating. And I'm sorry if I come through, but I expected more.
So with the software that we're talking about?
Everything, I
Push a button and get it.
push a button and print a report on any kind of statistic you could think of.
Well, based on this discussion, I'd be in favor of reducing the member pay back to 18 rather than 19. Because that even allows, after taking the stipend out and then looking at the 3%. So it doesn't beyond 17. If the volume grows, hopefully the $500 difference will cover it. 18.
What do you think about that, Vic?
I'd love to take the member pay, bring it down to the 18.
We're down to 18.
Down 10,000.
So that takes $2,000 off the bottom line.
3. Secretary, don't miss that one, Joe.
Yeah, but that's actually gonna be transferred over to software.
Yeah, we're moving that amount to the software, the newly created software line.
So you 13,600, now going to 14,600?
No.
Software is gonna
The
cover
software.
that.
Mutual aid dues will be separate, plus whatever the first responder call thing is. And then the new reporting system would be under software. The secretary's line, because it's digital fax, is under software.
So I wrote down 13,600 for software.
Yeah,
Plus the 1,000 from secretary.
No, that's with the 1,000.
From the 1,000, okay.
Oh, now I'm confused.
Because we took 12,600 out of the mutual aid.
Yep.
And add 1,000 to it from the secretary. Went to 13,600. That's the way I got it.
You got it?
Right, 13,600, right, the mutual aid, right. Right. So what do we come up with?
So change the bottom line.
Like
minus
2,000.
$2,000.
So it'd be 187.
Can you go down the numbers again that you changed, please?
Fuel went down to 5,500. Member pay 18,000. Mutual aid dues 7,000.
Did you say 6,000 baked in? That's not okay.
Yeah, because we'll move I am responding as well. So that one could be 6,000.
That one was 6,000.
Yeah, that's what I had for 7.
And secretary 0. Fire chief
Right.
0. Daytime coverage 105,560. So the mutual aid, we taking that other 1,000 and adding it into the software, or just
Correct, to make it 15,600.
14,600?
14,600.
So you're doing
thought it
away
was
with the
13.
secretary line item?
Yep.
Yeah, 0.
But that 1,000, because it's digital software right now, we're just moving that 1,000 over to the software line, but we're getting rid of the secretary line.
And it brings the bottom total to 187,075. You set, Dave?
So I don't
Yeah, okay. You all set?
know.
Okay. I make a motion to approve 4220 fire and rescue for 187,075.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. I was paying attention.
Where did it come from? Money?
You're going to that, aren't you?
I have a question.
Yeah, Steve?
For clarity, if possible, on the printout to take where it says member pay to put a parenthesis and put off-duty hours in the parenthesis so that people will know. I wouldn't know what the hell a member pay meant if I was looking at the thing in the book.
Can you do that, Audrey?
I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, JT.
All right,
Emergency management.
emergency management. Small increase on generator maintenance, and that's just to allocate for some maintenance that needs to be done to the generator at the fire station to eliminate our carbon monoxide problem.
So what,
JT, was that, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
was that to the building?
That is to the generator.
Okay.
We need to add an exhaust pipe that
Come up
actually
through the roof.
goes up away from the building, yeah.
That's
Every
not
time that
building
runs.
Maintenance, I thought it was building maintenance.
it's going to through the roof, which is part of the building.
Yeah, it could be municipal buildings.
Yeah, it is maintaining the municipal building, so it's not full of carbon monoxide.
But then again, it's for the generator, so, yeah, we can go either way. I'll leave it there. It's not a biggie.
And then I eliminated mileage for the same reason as eliminating the other mileage, it's just not.
But I'm sure it's not gonna cost $600 for that exhaust, but they go up on their service every year.
They quoted almost 3,000 to do it, the company to do it.
Really?
That's our parts and labor, we're gonna do it in-house.
Gee. I got two go napper and get a couple clamps,
Yeah,
some tailpipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gee. Any questions, Vicky?
Nope.
Dick?
Nope.
Make a motion to approve 4290 emergency management, the amount of $2,500.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I'd just like to thank our new fire chief for going through all these changes is not easy. But the documentation he prepared to try and explain all the things is probably beyond anything that we've seen come in before. And so for the public, I think it was very informative, and congratulations to you for putting together such a nice presentation.
thank you.
another one looks fairly simple, fire warden.
Firewood, no change to equipment purchase, basically we use that for the matching grant every year from the state. So no change to that. I eliminated firefighter reimbursement, again, wasn't used, don't need it. Training and fire prevention, I kept the same at 500, and mileage was already eliminated last year, so. No change.
So budget went down.
Correct, there is a change, went down 500.
Good. I got no questions.
Motion to accept the fourth fire warden in the amount of 2,000.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Let's get you off the hook, JT.
For the moment.
Alright. Say about the budgets to be scheduled. announcement, the town clerk tax collector will be closed next Tuesday for election. So elections will be here 8 to 7, polls will be open. Public comment.
So I was just wondering where we stand, and probably a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the school bus, school board, and the bus stop at the corner, and anything being progress there at all?
Did you hear anything back?
I have not, you haven't seen any change?
And,
Okay, tell me what time you go by. I thought last time that was a good 6:40 in the morning.
yeah, quarter to 7, but tonight, on the this week anyway, I come through at 4:10 to 4:15 thereabouts. And the three or four vehicles that are there all make a U-turn, which I stopped for today. There was kind of some confusion on 3 vehicles making a U-turn at that 3-way intersection after the bus dropped the kids off. So the bus is still on Jones Road, but the 3 vehicles make a U-turn right there in the intersection and go back down Champion Hill. And again, not looking for any citations or anything, just looking for public safety and people some good stuff.
Do you think it's worth having,
Joe,
yeah,
JT,
out to review
I
it?
mean,
I think
Tyler.
I would put that on.
yeah.
It's a daily thing, morning and evening. There's a time change coming next week. It just, the whole thing.
Right.
It's not just there, I just happen to see it there, but again, I'm all for the public safety part. Bus stops for kids and 2 or 3-way intersections probably aren't the healthiest place to have.
Okay,
Thank you.
David,
Yeah, I have just a few quick ones. Timber cutting. We've done a lot of that this year. What are the numbers for getting in for that? Do we have any
the
idea?
total?
Yeah, how much are we making as a town?
Oh, God, I don't know.
They have until, I think it's April 1st to
Yeah.
report it and pay it, so I don't think we would have a final number yet.
Not till the turn of the
No,
year
but
at
I
least.
think it's up around 30, probably around 40,000, because it was 33,000 in the last cut.
Yeah, so we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice. Cold storage, more votes are going in on Green Mountain Road, and I'll just leave it at that. And the shoulders haven't been done.
Yeah, I had quite a conversation with Ron last Friday.
Again, the property across from Randy's, looks like more work is being done in construction of the yurt. Just an FYI.
And the driveway going in.
Saw another car there tonight.
No, that's the other property.
Oh, which one are you talking
I
about?
think it's 981. It's the mailbox right
Oh,
with the yurt in the back.
Yeah, and I don't know if I have this correct really, but I believe David told me that the one that's closer to Ada, what is that?
That's like 1,000. I think the one with the door.
The one with the
Yeah.
door, the camper is not only in the setback, but I believe David said it's on the property. Anyway, maybe that could be something that could go to.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I'll
the
check
one-
with
I
David
thought that was the
tomorrow.
one with another car visiting.
And then, I have a couple of questions about, the current use issues that I volunteered for.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk
I-
to David with that, about that too.
Well, I don't wanna get David in trouble, he had a
Oh.
bad week, so, we'll give him that, but, what I will need, I think, before I can probably take over almost everything, is a list of the properties that are in that category of current use. I'd like to, with help of town, come up with a letter that we can send to those properties, either explaining what the current use law is, or giving a link to the site for the state that explains those, and letting people know that we will be coming out and checking on their status. And then at that point, I'll need mailing help with that as well, and then I will need, if we get to the point of people not conforming to the law, then either citation or the change of the current use status by the town, so that they are no longer enjoying that extra 20%.
Chat with David.
So I don't know if you think David's the one I need to be with, that's fine. I have no problem working with anybody.
You'd be the one to find out who's under current use.
You should be able to get a report out of the car for that, who that was.
I would think,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know how to do it, so.
Did you get the information I sent you?
I got the information. I was already aware of that. I went through all this in Mineborough when I was living there. I had enough property to do the current use. And I went into it and studied that for a while there and ended up not doing it for other reasons, but it's clear that the most advantageous category for current use allows the homeowner for, I believe, a 20% decrease in tax if they allow the public on their property. And so if people are posting and enjoying that, they shouldn't get it both ways. So it could help our tax base. Maybe, I think more majorly it's going to get better conforming conformance out there.
That it?
That is it.
Dave?
Just remind everybody Tuesday's vote. And Wednesday next week is the budget meeting.
Maria?
I don't know if Dave asked this or not, because I wasn't sure, but do you know what the status is on the Green Mountain Road finishing up the side?
I talked to him. I laid it right out pretty well last Friday.
Did
And
he do anything?
he hasn't gotten back, but it's on his list.
Okay.
He's
Um,
been spoken to.
Yeah,
I've been sweeping all the rocks back, so I'm just, some of these are big rocks and they're gonna, make divots in the thing, so there's a lot of it that's just, and it's more so on one side than the other, so I don't know who did what, but it's just, it's concerning, because there's just sections
I
missing.
noticed
Yeah,
that there's tracks, like someone is going over and
Yeah, or
trying to.
just stuff that went over onto the road and then it goes back and forth, and then there's pieces missing, just sections.
Yeah, and
It's-
heavy rain, somebody get over there and drove down and splashed it all over the
Yeah.
road.
But it's just kind of messy.
But he,
Just a little concerning.
he knows it's gotta be finished, and
Okay.
I asked him to roll it when he's done.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Because there was a house, a little red house that's for sale,
Mhm.
they filed a complaint about their driveway.
Yeah, there's quite a drop off
Is it
on
that
some.
house or
in
is it the
some
next
areas.
one too, next one too then?
No, it's Kenny Wilson's.
Oh, it looked like the other one. All
But there's a lot of, even just the pull-offs,
Yeah,
right. Mhm.
vacant land, they still
Yeah.
gotta do it.
it's inconsistent where they did the little pull off and where they didn't. So
Yeah.
we don't understand why some have it and it's just we don't know
They
why.
tried to do everybody's driveway before they started shouldering,
Yeah,
because we just didn't have the help. And, right now he's so far behind and everybody's screaming at him, and he doesn't even get us bills. So he says, I usually do my bills on the rainy days, but he's been working the rainy days lately, so I'm trying to catch up. But they've been out yesterday and today doing some coal patching, and he knows he's gotta come back and finish it, so.
thank you.
And some other stuff, other projects.
Just thought of one other quick one. Have you as a board given any more thought to the meeting time changing and adding the extra meeting area, so we have one every week. This is Board of Selectmen meeting.
We haven't discussed it.
Is that something? you think
Maybe
we're
after
gonna-
we get done budgets, we have time to do some of that stuff.
I mean, we're
Well,
using
right
our
now-
opposite week to do work sessions, so it's like, you know, to us, it is every week.
Well, yeah, I'm on several boards and I'll have to ask David if we're meeting tonight.
But yeah, we'll probably discuss that. It's on the list. Nikki,
I just wanna mention that the house that, or the camper with the door, the next door neighbor in the white trailer, she has a handicapped son and a handicapped husband. And she is very nervous about these people because they do come knocking at her door. And she is a single little old lady, you know, and so she's kind of worried about this. So I don't know if you guys can step it up a little and try and get something done.
so Dave, Mike,
Yeah, probably got 3 or maybe 4 things, try to be quick for most of them. One is, as you touched on, your work session, it's on the agenda. Do you have a topic for what you're gonna be taking on next week?
I think it was what was it?
I don't know, I called all three of you and then, no. We need to finalize waste management contract.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
getting that back from Primex.
Yeah.
I think we had a couple more budgets yet to do.
Yeah.
Like payroll items and benefit, those two. So that's all I have right now.
So
Is that on-
basically, budget.
Yeah,
budget.
budget,
Um,
waste management.
We need to get into warrant articles. We have to start
Yeah.
getting into warrant articles.
So on, just a clarification, because there's something presented out from one of the board members, last meeting, I think, in response to something Mr. Garso had brought up with current use. One of the issues was whether or not you could post your property. And I just wanted to, I think that was misstated. So there's basically 5 categories that I'm aware of. There's the 20% off one for recreational use that David mentioned. You can't post your property for that. But there's 4 other categories. There's forested, unproductive, wetlands, and I can't remember everything, so there's another one. Those people can
Yeah.
legally post their property, so I think something went out that was probably not, you know, quite exactly right, and people would probably get the wrong idea, and you might have calls because they think the neighbor's doing something wrong, so I just.
Well, that's the
I
big
thought-
reason for wanting to send a letter out.
Yeah, I thought it was 3 different categories. We said it's 5, it could be 5.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a 4th one that you can post your land under,
Yeah.
but the brain doesn't retain it all anymore, so. But it's just the idea that under current use, the majority of things you have filed for current use for, you can post. And there's actually like a 100-page booklet on it, you know, the DES, or DRA has for that.
But the final category is a very generous amount in order to let people on.
Yeah, that's the
property,
recreational
public use.
David, I would suggest you go to the state site, because even someone with a 20% can put up no posting if they go to fishing game, if they're having problems with dumping. Or having other problems, fishing game can allow them to put up a sign, because I already checked on that for mine, if I wanted to go current use. So there is some other stipulations that even on 20% can be posted.
And
So just go to the state, it's on a state site.
that's my point, there's
that
like a
concerns me.
103-page booklet
Yeah.
for current use. So it's
Well,
not a simple answer.
Well, it concerns me that they even have the right to do that.
It's
we have to-
allowed by the state.
What else you got, Mike?
That's my comment.
So, one thing I want to thank you, Lenny, for tonight, allowing the questions as you go through some of the things in the file folders and stuff. Because those haven't really been capitalized on, and we move into other stuff, and it's been driving me nuts, because you may have noticed I'm a little bit of an inquisitive individual. Little,
Little.
so your office is getting inundated with 91As, because for the life of me, I can't discern how certain decisions are being made, when they're being made, by whom, and I just wanna know more. So tonight, it was very helpful, because I've knocked off a whole bunch of my 91As that I was gonna send out this week, because you addressed things here in the fashion you did. So allowing it might be a bit of a pain in the ass, but it's probably productive in another way. So there's a trade-off. But again, transparency and stuff, and the ability not to really get information has drove me nuts all year. And I think this the exchange when you go through the file folders that is beneficial. I've been attending meetings for, a dozen years or more. I've sat on your side of the table, and I know when you bring topics up or communications, they tend to get discussed to some level. And I'm asking you to put that back in as part of your posted meetings for the public. And really, I think you should do that overall, because it's really, and I'm gonna hand you this, and I'm not trying to cause trouble with you. I just want you to be aware. This is what I sent an email into Audrey, and I said, you really ought to be aware of these meetings, the public meetings, how they're run under RSA 91(2). And I highlighted it for you, so you can't miss it. You're having meetings without posting them. And it's a public meeting when the three of you are in here and you're looking over documents. Doesn't matter that you speak or interact on them. It matters that you're able to communicate contemporaneously. And that's a public meeting. And you check with your attorney if you want, but I see you're in violation. And in Roman 2, it states what a public meeting is. And I also said in the email before, you want to look probably at RSA 91(8) under remedies, because if you get called on this, you could end up paying your legal fees for 91A for whoever takes you to court. You could be responsible for the legal fees that the town would be footing for you, and you each would be responsible. And an employee that participates in this would be there's a $250 to $2,000 fine that can be applied. A case was just settled. I love case law, and it was in 91A. And it was a very simple request for 91A information, and a New Hampshire city said no. They went to court, they lost. They didn't award legal fees, and it was minor requests, really. And the Supreme Court upheld that woman got paid for her legal costs. So I think you guys the town could be in a situation, but you guys, I think personally, could have some exposure if you're not gonna have people, allowed to come in and see this meeting that you're having and put the proper posting on notice. And you really should check with your attorney or something just to know, because I know I'm frustrated not being able to get information, and I think this would help, and you'd be compliant. So I give that to you. I drop it at your lap. Do with it as you will. But I think you got some exposure.
Well, I thought all the meetings were posted, but I guess there was one that didn't get posted. Right?
Today you were here personally at 3. Vicky came in a few minutes later. Chuck was here by maybe 3:30 or something. You come in original and you were doing your folders. That your meeting was posted for 4:30, not say 3:30. That by law and definition should have been a posted public meeting, because you are looking at materials that you have supervision or jurisdiction over as a governing body, and you don't have to talk to each other. You're able to talk to each other, basically. That makes it fit that definition. That's why I said, don't listen to me. Don't take how I interpret it. You might want to ask your town council. It's a pretty simple one, but I'm pretty comfortable you've been in violation all year of the 91A requirements. And again, the remedies could be, not good just for you guys as an individual if you have a call on it. So just throw it, if you look into it at your own leisure, or not, I mean, just informing you guys. Yeah, with that one, I'll leave you alone.
Okay. Nobody else, I hope.
I always like to say the best for last.
Audrey, the date on the next working session is Tuesday the eighth.
It's gonna be the 9th for voting, and it's gonna be at 4 o'clock prior to the budget committee meeting. So 4 o'clock on the 9th.
Nine.
Everybody's kind of committed on the eighth.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see what the problem is. I mean, you're all in the same building, just do more business. Like here, for a whole bunch of it. Well,
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Maria, will you just trying to clarify this one where it says Tuesday, November 6th?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just the date, was just on,
9.
it was supposed to be the ninth, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Fixed up the
It's,
down.
not Tuesday, it's Wednesday the ninth.
And it's
Wednesday the
Wednesday the
9th.
ninth.
Thank you for picking that up.
Yeah, just,
they haven't adjourned yet. I don't think it's gonna fly. I think they're staying.
I don't think they're gonna do another meeting without.
Thanks, Chuck.
Oh, no.
And
Have a
that's
great
at
week,
4 p.m.
guys.
That's at 4 p.m. Maria.
oh,
Gracie
Will do. Good.
thank you guys.
All right, motion been made, I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, you seconded it too?
It's just,
Okay.
it's been motioned and seconded a couple times.
Oh, all right.
Do you have the documentation for that Jones, yeah, thank you.
Okay, enough.
I'll do my sheets. I'll make the update.
What are you guys doing?
Oh, you're
I do live in,
Yeah, I figured, well, David was here and I was here. This is
All right.
the
All
thing.
right.
What?
Oh,
Oh, they're just looking at that.
they're looking at that building permit or something. They're gonna stay for a couple more hours.
I didn't know if it was something,
No.
like, we having another thing I don't know about.
Good night, JT.
Night, JT.
Hey, chief.
Vicky, how's your teeth doing?
Oh,
Feeling pretty good?
I guess I'd want.
yeah, I just need some adjustment.
Doc says up there, so this does.
But, and it's gonna, everyone I talk to is saying
Really
it can go on and on.
looking.
Huh? Mm-mm, no, it's false.
Oh,
But I had,
no, they're looking at something. Yeah. Yeah, thank you anyway. I was looking at your car. No, they've got to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It raises a number of issues.
We need to just go.
Well, yeah, we'll go look at it. Again, I'm gonna say that because this was on COVID-19, it's been a bad practice. I wanna capture the ones this year. These guys are in a spot, you're allowed to do this for a long time. You know, I look at this and wonder, like, you're not supposed to be able to claim occupancy. So they shouldn't be registering in vehicles that you wanna get into, really, but I don't know how far you wanna go down that. Yeah. I wanna make sure the septic stuff